I'm here today doing my very first CGC unboxing. I'm really excited to kind of see what I ended up getting back. This particular box is 13 comics of the walkthrough tier. And I have not even looked at the invoice yet because I thought I would do this as a surprise to myself by attempting to do a video recording. So let's see what we got. So I am just going to kind of pull out comics. Before I do that, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm actually Ted of Ted's House of Comics, and I actually been collecting now since the early 70s. A few of these books in here that I'm really excited to take a look at are going to be a few books that I actually purchased off the newsstand probably close to 50 years ago. So it's definitely going to be an exciting time to see what I've got. But first off, I'm just going to start kind of grabbing these randomly and see what the grades are. So the first one is, I think, one of the very few DCs I've got. And it is a House of Secrets 92, which is coming back as a 5.5. I really had expected this book to grade much better than this. And I'll have to take a look to see what the issues actually are from the grader's notes. But I had purchased this as a high grade comic actually from Superworld, or from Dale Roberts at the Comic-Con many years ago. Next up is my Daredevil, and it actually is coming back as a 6.5, which is actually a little bit better than what I expected. This particular book actually had a tape pull that somehow happened between, I believe, here and my presser, but it actually, like I said, I originally expected about a 6.0 because there's definitely a fair amount of Marvel chipping on it. But I am very, very happy with this particular grade. Next up, we have a giant size X-Men #1 that came back as a 5.5. This particular book I purchased on the cheap. It came with a collection that I had purchased probably about 20 years ago. As it turns out, I believe that this is probably a display copy, because even though it's a beautiful looking book, very well preserved, it appears as if the previous owner had basically kept this out in display, and the colors unfortunately have leached away. Still, I'm happy at 5.5, which is approximately the grade I had expected, so I'll take it. Next book up is a Special Marvel Edition 15, which is the very first appearance of Shang-Chi, and I'm really happy with the 9.2. I believe that I had expected from this particular copy that it was going to come back, I actually thought it was going to come back a little bit higher than this, maybe a 9.6. But again, I'll have to take a look at the notes and see what it is. But nice book, I'm happy to have it. Next book is Werewolf by Night #32, the first appearance of Moon Knight. This particular book I had purchased actually off the newsstand when it first came out. This particular book, unbeknownst to myself, actually had some staining on the back of the cover, which basically was also found a little bit on the inside. The presser had informed me of this issue, and when he told me that, my heart just dropped because I had expected this book to grade much higher than this. As you can see, it's definitely a beautiful, book. I think it presents much better than a 6.5. But unfortunately, the bit of staining on the back, which I believe probably was from water, something of that nature, just really, really brought this grade down. So I'm really, disappointed because, like I said, this is probably one of the first books I collected as a young child, and I was really hoping this book would come back much, much higher than a 6.5. Next up we have a Amazing Spider-Man number 3. Now, this particular book came back as 4.5, and I believe that this is probably, pretty close to what I expected. I thought maybe it would have came back as a 5.0, but a 4.5 is, is great. I'd actually purchased this out of a collection of several thousand books, so my average cost in this collection, I believe, was around 80 cents a comic. So 4.5 for Amazing Spider-Man number 3 at an average cost of 80 cents. I'm probably going to get my money's worth. But again, I'm really happy to have this book. Next up is Tomb of Dracula, number 10, the first appearance of Blade. This particular book, I believe I had also purchased basically at the newsstand when I was a child, and it came back as an 8.5. As I take a look, this is actually, I'd expected an 8.5, and it came back as an 8.5. So definitely happy with this book. Moving on to the next one, and as you can see, a lot of these books are Marvels. I do have a few more submissions that'll be coming through. I think the next one I get back is later this week, which will be an express tier. It'll have a little bit more DC in it, but it seems like my walkthrough tier was primarily Marvel. Okay, here we are. This is definitely one of the key books, one that I love. It actually is my Fantastic Four 48 that I actually purchased from Super World Comics. I believe it was Super World Comics at the San Diego Comic-Con. And this one, I had actually gotten it in 2011. But I'm definitely very, very happy with this book, a 7.0. I had actually expected this to come back, well, I actually was hoping this would actually come back as an 8.0, but it came back as a 7. I'll have to take a look at the grader's notes, see what the issues are. But again, a 7.0 for a Fantastic Four 48. Very happy. It has so many key appearances. First appearances, Silver Surfer, Galactus. It's just a great book to have. So I'm excited. Next up, we're going to bring up a Marvel Spotlight number 5. And this particular book came back as a 7.5. And again, I think I was expecting this one to come back as a, if I can find it, I actually was expecting this to come back as about an 8.5. Again, I'm going to have to take a look at the grader's notes and see what the problems were. But this is a very, very hard book to find. I mean, it basically keeps going up in price. I'm really happy to have it. And, this one actually is definitely going to be a keeper in my personal collection. Next book we have is a Tales to Astonish number 35. This book really presents well, and it's actually the first appearance of Ant-Man in costume. And I was hoping this book would come back as a 6.5, and it came back as a 5.5. But again, I purchased this book, looks like in 2006, and my average cost, well, actually I purchased a complete run of Tales to Astonish, where my average cost was approximately $60 per comic. But Tales to Astonish for 5.5, I'll, love the book and definitely believe it presents much better than a 6.5 or a 5.5, but happy to have it. We still have a few more books left, so let's see what is next. Next is Fantastic Four 49, and this is coming back as a 7.0 off-white to white pages. Definitely a book that I love. I actually have a few of these already in my collection, so I'm happy to add it. Again, this particular book I'd hoped for an 8.0, came back as a 7.0. Okay, next is one of my Incredible Hulks 181s. And this one is coming back as a 4.5. I actually had submitted 2 of these, and I had expected one to come back as a 4.0 and the other one to come back as a 3. As it turns out, a 4.5 is actually a little bit better than what I expected, so I will be happy with this particular book. And I actually, here is a second Hulk 181, and believe it or not, this is also coming back as a 4.5. So, whereas I expected to receive back a 4.0 and a 3.0, I got 2 4.5s. So, this again was a very happy surprise. And as it turns out, that's actually the end of my walkthrough box. Like I said, this is my very first CGC submission, and I submitted this particular box as 13 walkthrough books. Although there were a couple, major surprises in here, to the downside, I also had a number of surprises to the upside. Overall, I probably was a little bit not as aggressive on some of the grading as I should have been. But, this is a learning experience, and I am, just really happy to have these books. And like I said, stay tuned because later this week, I expect my Express tier comics to be coming through, which is another 13 books. And this will include, some key issues like Green Lantern #1, Justice League of America #1, in addition to, a number of other, really key books from the Silver Age. So stay tuned. And again, thank you for watching my very first video. And hopefully as I proceed, I will be doing a little bit better at this. Again, thank you and have a wonderful night and happy hunting.